Welcome back to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. And of course, we are moving to another segment, as Kayode explained before we went on that break. Bukola, each time you guys sit down to talk about, why do you always remove me from the things I'm interested in? Yesterday it was the celebrity. Today is money.
Okay, so I hope your interest is well-founded in this topic. It's well-grounded.
Of course, I'm interested in everything.
Yeah.
After all. Okay, so we'll be talking about agriculture. And we have our guest already in the studio, Mrs. Temitokpe, and she's the president of She Farmers Initiative. Madam, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to farming and agriculture. As a matter of fact, without food security, none of us will be here as it is. So maybe you can walk us through some of the potential in the entire value chain from your understanding of that industry.
Well, actually, Nigeria is a country that is loaded. We have almost all the major agro-commodities in this country. And across the region, our lands are fertile. Nigeria is a country where you just drop maize on the ground, and the next day, a few days after, it starts germinating. We have good soil. We have good land area, good numbers land areas. We have good coastal line, over 800 kilometers of coastal line. So the value chain in each commodity in each of the agro-commodity is enormous, is huge. If you look at you look at cassava, for instance, look at the value chain in cassava from the raw to the end. There are a lot of end products in cassava, and so also maize, other products. And we have it all here. Ginger, turmeric, spices, herbal, economic plants. We have everything. So Nigeria is vast, and it's not even strange because the previous years before oil boom, we were actually making a lot of money from exportation of these cash crops. We know about the pyramid, coconut granule pyramid in Kano, the cocoa exports in the southwest. They're still there. The land is still there. It has not changed. So the opportunities is vast. So
at some point, I may want you to take it in bits in terms of the value chain, but sometimes it's a bit confusing to see all of this value chain that you've explained. And according to the MBS, food inflation is over 30%. How do you relate that?
Well, actually, the issue we have right now in Nigeria that needs urgent intervention. We want to thank God for the president on his new renewed hope agenda, particularly in agricultural intervention. It's been very formidable. We just hope that those interventions will be accountable, they'll be measurable, so that they'll be sustainable. Last year, they started the dry season farming intervention in Jigawa State which will enable increased production in wheat production in Nigeria. I'm trying to explain, to relate it to the increase in the inflation, the increase in prices of food commodities. Once we increase production of these commodities, it is available, then the price will be reasonable. So the dry season intervention in Jigawa State over time will help cushion the effect of increase in bread. As you can see, bread rose from 500 naira to almost 1,500 naira. It's ridiculous. But once we have the input in commercial production in Nigeria, it reduces the price of food commodities.
Okay, so what's the potential for the reduction in the prices of not just bread now, but also poultry feed, based on the announcement made by the president about the plan to cultivate wheat, millet, 500,000 hectares. And now I'm particularly concerned about poultry feed, chicken, and even eggs, the price of which has shot up astronomically in the last couple of years. So what's the potential for this mass cultivation, to affect the prices of these commodities?
Like I said, the potential is enormous. If the federal government is coming to say they want to cultivate 500,000 hectares of farmland across the region to meet improved production of these grains, who are the stakeholders that will be involved in that process? Because for me, I think government has been intervening over the years in this sector. But the intervention has been practically left the women out of it. But right now, I want to appeal to the federal government to consider the women across the country in this intervention. Yes, the only way we can achieve food production in Nigeria is by technology. A lot of world production of food has gone beyond subsistence farming or manual farming. They've mechanized. So in Nigeria, our government needs to really be intentional about this intervention. Beyond cultivation of 500,000 hectares, there has to be a machine. There has to be different intervention in the area of machineries, land clearing, land preparation. Do you understand? There has to be machines to improve the production. That is the only way food can be sustained, and it can be, the price can be affordable. I can relate this to, look at Ekiti, for instance. Ekiti has Ekiti has a particular location that they produces rice. It will amaze you that the rice production is still a subsistence. It is not mechanized. So you can imagine the women bending over to cultivate 1 acre of rice that can be done in an hour by machine, rice planter. So I think the government should be intentional in bringing all relevant stakeholders in this scheme.
So what structures do you suggest would be viable for inclusion? Would it be the Federal Ministry of Agriculture handling these cultivation, or for it to be devolved to the states? Because we were told that bureaucracy at the federal level is what impedes mass cultivation of commodities. Yeah.
Well, I think we can't take out the central. They are providing this intervention. But what is important is they have to make it community-based. They have to involve the state, because the state and the local community in that state, even the local government, they need to wake up and engage the local government to be active in agric intervention. I'll give you an instance. Look at what happened in Kaduna State. Last year, Kaduna ginger production was infected by fungal infection that devastated their production. They lost over 10 billion naira in ginger production last year. Do you understand? That has affected the farmers. So they need to involve all stakeholders. Nigeria has a lot of over 40 agric agencies across the country. Those agencies, research institutes, they need to be funded to be able to provide the necessary interventions for even these commodities at that commercial production level. So my advice is, number one, the government needs to engage all relevant stakeholders in each state. They know the people that are cultivating these commodities. They know the region which, fortunately for us in Nigeria, each commodities are peculiar to different locations. You want to talk about cashew is in Ogbomoso. Talk about ginger. Ginger is in Kaduna South. Kaduna South people lost so much last year. So I think even the federal government intervention that started last year, the federal government has a lot of agric intervention. So the one they started last year by the Minister of Dry Season Farming of Wheat, they should also replicate that in other regions of the country, like Kaduna South. They can try dry season farming of ginger. Ginger is a viable commodity that earns foreign exchange for us in this country. I'll give you an instance. About last year, exportation of a container of ginger was about 20 million for the whole 40-foot container. This season is going to cost about 35 million to fill a trailer load of ginger.
35 million naira.
35 million naira, yes. Okay. Just to buy the commodity alone, to fill a 40-foot container without even the cost of logistics and freight. So I'm saying that the government needs to be holistic in their intervention. Our research institute, our agric extensions across the region for specific commodity must be in place. Okay. So the federal government should put up a committee, stakeholders in each state to ensure that this implementation is successful and it is sustainable over the period of time. But please, what is important, the women should not be left alone. Yeah, because over 80% of our women are in agric primary production, and they are going through a lot of stress. So the women should, this age we are, should sit back and see machines work for them. Okay. The drones work for them. The caterpillars work for them. So this scheme of 500,000 hectares, I don't know how they're going to allocate it across the country, across the region, and across the crop line. If they're going to do that, I know they cannot achieve improve production without mechanization. Mechanization is needed to achieve this production. So they need to bring a lot of machine in for the women. So the women should be clustered together. Our women-owned community, where our women, they don't work alone, they work together in clusters. When they are in clusters, the community should be able to release a lot of land mass area for them, for the machine to come in and work. And if you engage the women to work in a large expanse of land, trust me, production will be continuous.
We're going to come back to the issue of women because I see that you're quite passionate about that as well. And I know Bukola wants to follow up on that question. But I want to touch as many things as possible within the time we have.
Okay.
The issue of GMO foods and people talked about fertilizer affecting our health.
Yeah.
I want you to bring that balance between technology and all of this that we're doing to make sure that the food we're consuming, we're talking with our Proco doctor, and he talked about fake products and all of that. So where is the place, to what extent can technology help us in terms of managing the preservation of these foods, not eventually maybe getting to a point where it becomes harmful to us as a people? Because if we're bringing these women in and everybody in, we also need to train them to know, because we've heard all kinds of things being used to preserve foods because of our storage system is quite poor in the country.
Actually, right now we're trying to reorientate our women across the country on the use of farming inputs, particularly the fertilizers, the organic, all the things used in cultivation. And these inputs are majorly at the primary production level. That's when you're preparing the land for cultivation. You see, one of the risks that the farmers are also facing is the area of circulation of fake fertilizers. Yes. Let me give you an instance. We have somebody who had prepared 100 acres of land for cultivation. He has bought a seedling. The cost of clearing and preparing land is over 60% of the cost of cultivation itself.
Wow.
Because
60% of the entire
of the entire cost, yes.
The cost of clearing.
You can clear 50 acres of virgin land for over 5 million naira. That's it, because you have to remove the trees, you have to remove the stump, you have to plow it. So it's a lot expensive. So when you've gone through all that stress, you now bought seedlings, you're now applying fertilizers, and the fertilizer you're applying is fake. I mean, you are buying medicine to cure, to improve what you're planting. At the end of the day, it's actually killing it. How do we rationalize that? Do you understand? Fertilizer NPK is a proportion, 15, 15, 15. Some you buy in the market, because it's not everybody that has laboratory to go and test for that fertilizer. You order for fertilizer, they bring it to the farm, and you apply it. So what is needed, like I said, that can prevent all this negative impact on our product is that the government should provide extension services across the region, research laboratory that can say, oh, this is the fertilizer to use. If in a local government you have women who want to cultivate rice, they need their seedlings, they need their input, they need their fertilizer. There's a dedicated center where they can buy their fertilizer, where they know this fertilizer is in the proportion that is stated in the package. So the government needs to help, in that area. And they need to also empower the research institute to deploy all their strength in all of these areas.
I know you talked about women, but before I come to you, how can young people plug in? Maybe so that I buy into the strong sentiment that young women, if possible, plug into all of this to make the most, which is why my first question was on the value chain. Excuse me, was on the value chain. So if you walk us through maybe a particular crop value chain, they will know how to plug in.
Do you have? I sent a video for you to show. I don't know if you have it.
Maybe as we speak, maybe the producer
they can help us show the video. A young person will not go into a business that has made the parents suffer over the years.
Okay.
Our women in agri production, they are going through a hell lot of stress. So in their active years, they are struggling to provide food for the nation. If you look at all the markets across the country, 3 days market, 4 days market, 5 days market, if you go to those markets, the people you find in the market are mostly women. Over 80% of the people in the market are women. The few men in the market come there to support, provide logistics, provide other handlers for the women. So these women, if I give you an instance of cassava production now, cassava, you want to produce cassava into gari, which is the commonly used end product of cassava. If you look at the processes of producing cassava. If you go to where the women process the cassava, no young person will want to go through the stress the parents are going through. If you have the video, you can show it. The women, stay by the fire 24/7, inhaling carbon. You can't even stand there for 1 minute. Waters will be rolling out of your eyes. And they are eating their body 24/7 every day. So there's no young person that wants to go through that stress. So the only way to make agribusiness attractive to our young people is by mechanization, is by providing technology, literally to implement that will make it attractive to them.
Okay.
And I tell you, there's a lot of opportunities for those little businesses for our young people to plug in. I'll give you an instance. I'm sure you know lemongrass.
Sure.
Lemongrass, as you see it, it is very, very potent and has a lot of potential for export and also local use. Right now, we have other group of women. In our clusters, we are about three steps. We have those in primary production, the farmers. We have those that add value, the processors, the gari processors. Then we have those that export. And then we also have those that produce cosmetics in another sect. The people that produce cosmetics used to import lemongrass oil from England. Lemongrass, citronella, and all these plants are in abundance in Nigeria. So the exchange rate has really affected the importation of that commodity. So they are looking inward. And now, good for us, we have this product here in abundance. Do you understand? So if we can get, a cluster of women planting and cultivating lemongrass, and we have like a factory, a mini factory that can extract the oil from the lemongrass, it's very easy for them to operate. They just sit down, see machine work for them. So the only way to get the young people to be interested in agribusiness is by scaling up from manual to mechanized agriculture. And I'm sure these 500,000
hectares of land
that the president has announced, if they take it round, and engage the young people, is in the committee that you see the young people. Do you understand? You bring them in. Do you understand? Allocate lands to them. Let them be part of a group. Do you understand? Let them be part of the system. Let them be part of the mechanization of agribusiness in Nigeria. The value chain is endless, but the government needs to be intentional. They need to bring all the relevant stakeholders to make it successful.
Well, from what you have said so far, it seems as if, the work has been defined, but the preparation that should go into it is not there yet. You keep referring to lack of mechanized farming, particularly for the women. There's another aspect I'd like to add, which is storage facilities. Much of our silos have been privatized, and 500,000 hectares is not a small number. What do you see happening, particularly about waste of food commodities that will be that could happen, particularly if there are no immediate off-takers for the farmers who are going to be producing these crops? Well,
like you said, preservation is very important so that it will reduce post-harvest losses. So part of the intervention of mechanization, of technology, will reduce losses if it is implemented in this program that the government has mentioned. For instance, like you said, most of the silos that were there several years back during the Agric Revolution, all those silos they've been demolished, they've been taken down. So the government needs to go back to that part where those the Agric belt that were established during Awolowo's time. They need to go back across the country. They need to go back to those belts where we have dams that are supposed to irrigate the farms. So they should go back and make sure that all these facilities are in place, such that when there's harvest, this food and all, there won't be food loss.
Do you see that happening within 1 year?
Well, we have the infrastructure already. It's just for them to maintain those infrastructure. And if the government, Nigeria, we have the technical know-how. We have a lot of brilliant people in the sector. We have people that have been contributing to these sectors over the years. If the government can bring the right people in, of course, it can be achieved because we have the infrastructure in place already. It's just to improve what we have on ground.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam. We've learned a lot. But there's a lot to talk about. And I know that intermittently we're bringing you to talk about these things as far as this world of agriculture is concerned. So I want to thank you, Mrs. Temitope, and the President She Farmers Initiative. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be with you. Thank you.
All right, Bukola, that means we may be thinking of owning our own farm, maybe by proxy or something. I wouldn't know.
Absolutely. I'll be planting some vegetable, just by my house.